Hey everyone, it's Hannah Johns here with Carli Pardoe, Commissioner of the PPA Tour. Connor, welcome.
Hey Anna, how are you?
Really good. Thanks for coming on here. It's great to see you outside the office for something a little bit more personalized. Um, I've been with PPA for 3.5 years now and had the pleasure of working with you for a very long time now. And I remember meeting you back in the very beginning, back in 2020, middle of COVID. Do you remember meeting me back then when things first got started?
Did I meet you the first time at Ryan Sherry's place? Is that the first
Yeah.
time I met you, or did we meet before then? Yes, I
No, we
remember.
met at Margaritaville, Ryan Sherry's Margaritaville tournament, and you and Connor Ogden turned up.
I do. Honestly, Ryan Sherry kept reaching out to me saying, "You've got to hire Hannah. Hannah would be the best to be able to work with you and with the PPA Tour team. You need somebody that's more organized. You need some help around you." And obviously, it was coming from Ryan Sherry, so I was like, "Oh my gosh! Like, I don't know who is Hannah going to be? What is she going to be like?" And it's funny being introduced, from Ryan. Love the guy, but and then obviously we got to meet you at that first tournament, and I think you've been a part of the team ever since. It was just a great
Yeah.
natural fit.
It's so funny. Under Ryan, Ryan Sherry's recommendations can range. I mean, I might have been an exotic dancer that he really liked, but at least I was attached to knowing how Ryan is. But knowing I was at least attached to Colin Ben in some way was a good thing. And I remember thinking, I'm like, Connor is only taking this meeting or like taking the time to meet me because I'm related to Ben and Colin, because I was absolutely horrible my first event, doing my interviews and pretending I knew anything about what I was doing. And I was like, thank God I'm related. So at least I get a second look.
You know what though? Like, you've come such a long way since the first time, and I say this to everybody. I even said this to your dad. I was like, with the PPA tour, the most important Johns is actually Hannah Johns. People don't realize how much is actually going on, how much you've done. I mean, look, we've really built this thing together, and you've been a part of it since the very beginning. I think you maybe missed one or two events right at the very starting. And
Mm-hmm.
so, we only have this core group of 4 or 5 people that really understand everything that's gone into this, how much hard work, how much time and effort, blood, sweat, tears. Like, there's so much more than what everybody sees. And that's what's fun is like that same core group. We still have everybody. They're still a part of what we're doing. And I think that's one of the reasons that makes this so rewarding and satisfying is doing it together with, the group that we have.
Absolutely. I remember meeting you and Ogden back then. The two of you both came out, and I was thinking, wow, these guys are so young, but they're figuring things out on the fly. You had a really good work ethic, and so did Ogden, still do. You had big visions for where this was going to go, and I could tell that you cared a lot, like very, very deeply cared. And so I thought, this is something that I can get behind. And obviously, it's a family affair, so why not be involved in something that people are passionate about, that breeds fun and enthusiasm and excitement? And it was really just a perfect fit.
Yeah, no, and we're so lucky to have you. I mean, it's crazy when, you do things like this and you look back on the past and where you were, compared to now, and you really think about it, and it's like, a couple 24-year-old kids with an idea. And
Yeah.
if you would have told me what we would have done up to this point back then, I probably wouldn't have believed you. And if I met another 24-year-old kid now saying, this is what I'm going to do, being, 5 years further down the road, still being super young, the sport being super young. But now I understand a little bit more of the people being skeptical about what we were trying to achieve and things that we were trying to do. And now I understand. In the moment, you're like, why don't these guys understand? Like, this is going to work. We have an idea. We have a plan. We've got the players behind it. Like, what aren't these people seeing? And, now I understand a little bit more what I guess people may have been seeing in the beginning.
Yeah, it's kind of like when what you don't know, you don't know. And so sometimes coming into something with some lighthearted naivete to some extent is a great thing because it allows you to throw yourself into it and do what people say cannot be done. And at that point there was no centralized tour, and so we took something that didn't exist and created it out of nothing. And so it for some people that was just mind-boggling. Oh, pickleball will never be a real spectator sport. No one really cares about it. Who wants to watch pickleball on TV? It's for old people. We heard every, excuse under the sun, even from people who were advocates and lovers of the sport, still believed we couldn't do it. But now here you are at 29 years of age, 4 or 5 years later, running a multi-million-dollar company.
Yeah,
What do
four
you
kids
think?
now too. 4 kids now too. So we did 4 kids along the way. Yeah, no, definitely. Like I remember when we first started the PPA Tour, I was like, okay, the most important thing is we've got to get the best players out to the first event.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember talking to Matt Wright after the first event. And he's like, well, this is it. This is the ceiling. This is all pickleball's ever going to get to, And I remember asking myself that tough question. I was like, this guy is so smart and he has a successful job and he's one of the best players in the world. And he's saying, this is it. This is the limit. Like, why am I doing this if this is really the ceiling? And, I told him, I said, Matt, I think you're just dead wrong on this one. You're just not right. And we were actually laughing and joking about it a few weeks ago. And he's like, he's like, I don't know where the ceiling is. Like, my dad's watched me on CBS national TV. Yeah. Like, look at these sponsorships. I'm making more from pickleball now than I am from my normal job, from my day job. And so obviously it's funny to just look at where we were to where we're at now.
Yeah, well, I've seen firsthand, how hard you've worked and how much you've given up, not just personally, but on a familial level. And even giving up, some would say young adulthood or almost like late childhood, because you're in your early 20s, like you don't really do anything serious. Most people are out, still totally messing around and not really involved in anything serious. So what was the motivation, or what motivated you to do something that was incredibly hard? Like, what kept it all together?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. And it's something that a lot of my family members and people that are close to me have asked along the way. Like, why put in this much effort? Why putting in this much time? Like, you have a great life. And I think one thing that a lot of people probably don't know is, I would have had a great life with or without pickleball. Obviously come from a very successful family. I feel very blessed to be in the spot that I am in today. The family owns a substantial real estate development business where we develop properties, hold and manage. And, before all this, Carli and I were living a great life and things were great. And so the motive's never been about just the money and the money or the fame or it's been more about being passionate about something that I did with my dad. And at the same time, knowing, sure, it's great that I've come from a lot. Like, my goal is I want to be able to, one, grow something that I'm passionate about and something that I really enjoy. And sure, like I want to leave my kids with a better opportunity in their lives than the opportunity I had to start with. And so that's really what's important to me is how do we continue to grow the sport? It's been fun getting to know the pro players and understanding them and their background and looking and seeing what their lifestyle was like before to where it is now and where it could possibly go. And so for me, the motivation's really been a 360 approach. Just, sure, do I want to set up my family for success? Yes. But I also care a lot about the people that I've built this business with, and I want to see them be able to grow professionally. We now have over 150 employees that are focused on running pickleball tournaments, and, the pro players as well, just being able to create something that's sustainable, that they can be able to do amazing things and grow their brand and their personalities and hopefully, be able to enjoy life and make a lot of money doing it.
Yeah, for sure. It's been exciting to see pros who I, personally knew, I'm not going to name names here, but who were practically broke, living out of their car or living with parents or just didn't have anything. And they found this sport and it gave them a second chance because it actually became a bona fide profession. And similarly, I've seen so many of the pros, feel freed up to finally quit that job they hated. Zane Navratil was an accountant. Lacey Schneeman was an aerospace engineer. These people left these jobs happily excited to start something else. That's been really, really cool. And so that's been amazing, creating a niche where there wasn't one before. But you mentioned family and your kids, and I want to talk about Carli because she is one of my all-time favorite people. Your wife has been through this from start to finish with you, and I know how patient she's been. I wouldn't have had even a tenth of the patience. I would have divorced you long ago. But talk about having her as a support system behind you for all these years.
Yeah, it makes me emotional because, I couldn't have done anything that I've done up to this point without somebody like Carli in my life. Carli and I, we actually knew each other in high school. I'm a LDS or Mormon, and we actually met each other again after I finished a LDS 2-year mission that I did in Australia. And from the time I met Carly, I never wanted to get married super young. That was never really part of the plan that I had for myself. But when you meet someone like that and you just know, and when I, realized, hey, oh my gosh, I can't believe this girl's interested in me and would want to spend her life with someone like me, the very first thing I thought is there's no one I could ever meet that would be a better mother to my kids than she would be. And so knowing that you have a support system like that, somebody at home that's wanting what's best for you, it's something that's obviously so important. And I don't think a lot of people could have done really what I've done without having someone like that in their life, because it'd be easy for them to say, hey, like, why aren't you thinking about us? We've got 4 kids. We've got 4 kids under 3. Like, you're gone every other week. Like, you're up late at night trying to facilitate a merger with all this crazy stuff that's going on. Like, we were actually joking about it last night, but this is the 3rd year in a row between Thanksgiving and Christmas where it's been so busy. 3 years ago, I agreed to my deal with Tom, and we renegotiated 3-year agreements for pro players. Last year, we agreed to the first merger with MLP, which meant, new contracts and new players and joint agreements. And now this year, we're going through what we're going through. And so it seems like the holiday season is the time when you're supposed to be home with your family and being able to give them 110%. But Carly's been nothing but, an absolute rock for me. So super lucky to have her.
And what is it like to be the dad to 2 sets of twins, which is crazily unlikely. But it's double the trouble twice.
It is. And I think what's fun for a lot of the PPA people that have been there from the beginning, they've been able to kind of grow up with Grayson and Cannon. So our very first tournament, they were only like 3 months old. And so, people have been able to, however old the PPA Tour is, that's how old my kids are, right? Exact same timing. And so, right. It's been really fun. I can't help myself. I'm a big sports lover, connoisseur. And so now that my boys are starting to grow up, I find myself still volunteering for assistant coach, not head coach, and whether it be soccer or t-ball or baseball. And, I love kids when they're babies. I think they're very cute, but I'm finding myself having a lot more fun right now being the fun dad, being able to take the boys out now that they're 4 years old and go do fun and crazy things and play sports and be able to kind of see how their little minds work. And so I'm really enjoying the 4-year-old stage. I wish I was better at the baby stage, but I'm really good at the toddler stage.
That's right. That's kind of where dad mode really kicks on, I think. Certainly my dad was like that. He was like, it's a baby. Like, I love it, but I also don't really know what to do with it. So, but once you get to that stage where they can actually throw the ball back to you and race with you and really start talking, dads kick into high gear and they're like, oh, this is fun. And it only gets better from there. So my parents tell me. Whereas girls start out great and then get worse in their teens, which my parents will also tell you.
Don't tell me that. My girl's the terror right now. So don't even tell me that.
Little Millie, you love her now. Just wait till she turns 16.
I know. She's going to get whatever she wants.
I'm sure. So with so many small children in the house, and I know personally, like I'll get calls or emails or whatever late at night, early in the morning. Sometimes it's 5 a.m. I'm like, how's this guy still awake? And I know the rest of the staff feel the same. They're getting correspondence from you, it seems like, from all hours of the night. What is your sleep schedule like? Do you sleep?
Again, I've got like the best wife in America, probably the best wife in the world. So she has been very helpful when it comes to the babies. But I think one thing that actually has been good with twins is you really have to focus on getting your kids on a schedule. And so, when you have one kid, it's kind of easy to just throw them into the hustle and bustle. And I used to always joke with Connor Ogden, who's one of my best friends, who, if those who don't know, he helps run the PPA Tour with me. Like, my 2 kids were easier than his 1, the first go around. And so the reason why is we're very, very much, you eat at this time, you wake up at this time, you take naps at this time. And if you don't get them on an exact schedule, then it's just hell, right? Like, right. You can't manage your day. So sleep has been something I actually have never been a huge fan of. I usually do 5-6 hours a night. I just can't, I just get going. And it's something that bugs my wife, because my wife loves, the pillow talk, snuggling in bed, talking in the morning. So I try to do the best I can because I know she loves it. But I just, my mind gets going. I want to get up early. I stay up late. And so I guess that's one of the areas where we're not super compatible.
That's your recharge time. I totally identify with that. And you're like, now I've got him. I've captured him. He's here. Like, I have his attention. And now I want to run through everything that happened in my day and his
Yes.
day and, sort of like set it to rest before I go to sleep. And then in the morning over coffee, it's like that same sort of routine, the touch base with your man or woman as you may want it. But I know that she's probably missed that, but at the same time she's also been so supportive of what you're trying to do with the tour and with the PPA. I remember, when we first started out, the most common question I would get from people is, why can't I get a hold of Connor? And that was because everyone was trying to. I mean, you were getting hundreds and hundreds of calls and texts and emails a day, and you still don't even sleep. And I laugh because I'm like, people don't understand in the beginning, how big this thing was and how much attention it was getting from everyone across the entire pickle sphere. And then now I don't get that question anymore because people finally realize, oh my gosh, this is such a big thing. Of course he doesn't have time to hear, to respond to I want these, can I get these paddles into Pickleball Central store? That you're not doing that anymore, thank God. And we now delegate a lot better in the PPA Tour, and 150 employees makes that easier to do. What has that transition been like from, being basically you and Ogden and Bryce and me, I think we're like the original 4, to now having all these people at your disposal?
Yeah, I mean, like, think about you, if we just look at you and, you were the pro player director, you were the sideline reporter, you were the content writer, you were in charge of social media, you were in charge of my schedule, like you were in my emails at some point, I think you were at least. And, you were in charge of paddle testing. Like, you think about all these things where you were at, and now you're finally in a role where you can focus on the things that you're good at and be able to delegate. And the same on our side. And I thought it was never anyone's intention to not get back to somebody or, to give someone the cold shoulder. But, if you rewind it, we were doing 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 jobs. And now I think one of the best things is being able to have employees and processes and policies and procedures and people that can really focus on individual parts of the business that need attention and really be able to take something that was good and make it better. And so that's what I'm always looking for when we're looking at hiring and bringing people on. Like, who can you bring on that can, have autonomy and freedom to be able to take something that's already good and be able to make it better and be able to look at things and give it the time that it needs. And I think, going from being just an entrepreneur to trying to have a business that's professionally managed, I would say there's really good things about that. And there's also things that really suck and things that are really hard. Because, when you start something, you are literally touching every piece and part of the business. And, in order to grow and to scale, you can't do that anymore. And with that, there's good things that come from that, and there's bad things that come from that. And I think, growing and getting to that next stage, ultimately, I think people can look now at what we accomplished this last year. And, we couldn't have done that without, Tom and Dundon Capital and, infusing capital into the business to be able to make sure we've got the right people in the right positions. And I remember even when I first did my deal with Tom, he was like, okay, well, who does what? And I'm like, well, no, there's 5 people that do everything, Tom. And, it's been really fun to get a team around people and have a group down in Dallas. And, sometimes you pinch yourself walking into the office each day because you look around and there's so many people that are passionate about doing their job and working really hard. But there's so much that gets done every single day. There's more that gets done in a day than used to get done in a month, which is kind of crazy to think about. But there's so many moving pieces. And I think all in all, it's been really fun. It's fun to be a part of. And, I don't think anybody really has a group quite like ours to be able to work with. And so just knowing that we're surrounded by so many great people, that's what makes the job really rewarding.
Absolutely. And tell me about Tom. I know Tom myself to some degree, but he's sort of an elusive figure in the background. I don't think many people know him. I mean, he's obviously got a lot more going on in his life than just his pickleball tour. But Tom Dundon, billionaire and involved in a number of different businesses, but obviously he bought the PPA back in 2022. I think it was, or the end of 2021. What is it like working with Tom?
Yeah, I think one thing that people don't realize is a lot of the time I think people think, oh, this is Connor just going and doing all and running this by himself. And
Mhm.
that's just is simply not true. Like Tom is very involved, and I feel very fortunate that he's so involved. Like if you look at the time when he came into the sport and where we were and where we're at now, a lot of that has to do with him. And I'm forever grateful. I think everybody should be so grateful for how much time and effort he's really put into growing the sport of pickleball. And I feel great because I've learned a lot from him, and he's given me the ability to really make decisions and be able to grow the business. And I feel, like I've been able to earn his trust over the last 3 years. It probably hasn't been, this last year has been a time for me where I felt like I've really earned that trust from Tom, where before he was even more a little hands on. But, just looking at him and what he's done for the sport, introducing us to large sponsors, like we didn't have video boards before Tom. It was the little A-frames on the side. We didn't have
Yep.
employees, TV deals. And so just being able to have somebody that has a sports background and a business background that's been there and, made mistakes and done things that are right and being able to build upon the things that has made him successful, that's been huge for us. And it's something that I don't think players, fans, spectators, or even our staff sometimes gives the proper respect and understanding to, because Tommy's very involved. Like my first
Mhm.
call is usually early in the morning, and we have 3 or 4 calls throughout the day, and then I have another late call late at night. I have my own ringtone for Tom, so anytime he's calling, my little kids will say, Tommy's calling, Tommy's calling. So he doesn't know that, but
Yeah,
he's
he
very
does now.
involved. And we would not be near where we are today without somebody like that coming in. And there's a lot of people that have wanted to get involved in pickleball, but there's very few people that have actually made a proper investment, spent the
Mhm.
money, and put the time and effort in like Tom has done. I mean, when you look at it, I think one thing that I hate is when I hear, like the big bad Dundon. It's just not true. Like you won't find someone that's more compassionate, that cares more. And if you really look at it, he could have went and done all this by himself. He could have taken all of these other businesses out of business if he really wanted to, and he could have funded the money and started from ground zero. But what did he do? He went and he found the best of the best and he put them all together. He found the best tour, which was the PPA Tour at the time, the best retailer, which was Pickleball Central, the best SaaS-based companies and software-based companies, which were pickleball tournaments and pickleball brackets, Top Court. And it's been more about like, how can I make 1+1 = 3? And how can I take the best people? And how can I help take them from being entrepreneurs to professionally managed? And how can I put all the pieces together? And I think he deserves a lot of respect for doing that. And I'm super grateful to, be working alongside him and helping build this crazy pickleball business.
Yeah, it's for Tom. It's really so much more than a business. It's a passion.
Yeah.
I think that's why he devotes as much time as you say he does to it, because he's not only an avid pickleball player himself, but he thinks the sport is just amazing and he takes a lot of joy out of it himself. So, which I know firsthand from watching him play, he's very, very competitive about pickleball. But I think that's part of the reason he saw the basically what pickleball had to offer the world, and he became super invested in getting it off the ground because he knew he could make an impact on the sport and bring it to more people, and to make it into something really big and really cool, and I respect that a lot.
Yeah. And
Uh,
I think the thing to remember too for him, which is probably the most important thing, is sure, it is passion. He loves it. He cares about it. Does he need any of this? No. Like, do I need any of this? No. Like, we would both be fine without it. Um, but I think the one thing that is so key to all this is like, it is also a business to Tom. And the business
mhm.
aspect of it might be more fun to him than the pickleball part. And so to think that we're making the right decisions, that we're making the right decisions with finances and growing a business and making sure that we have a solid foundation, like all of that stuff is so important. And I think
Mhm.
it's easy to say like, oh, it's a passion project, but Tom won't do it if it doesn't make business sense. He just won't do it.
Yep.
And that's something that's so important when we talk about where's pickleball going to be tomorrow. Like you can't build something that foundationally is standing upon someone's passion, because what happens when we don't have Tom, right? And so what's great is that we're actually building something that's going to be here tomorrow. And it's something that is sustainable and something that's exciting. And, the business part might be more fun to him than the pickleball. And it's the same with me. Like, I really enjoy it. And so I think that's something that people should understand is like, we're really fortunate that it's him. Like, it could have been a lot of people to come in, and I'm just really happy it was Tom.
Absolutely. Well, I say to people all the time, the NFL was here at one point, the PGA was here at one point, and this is where we are. And having the right people at the helm is really important, and making sure we're making decisions that are built to last.
Definitely.
But I want to talk about some of the harder aspects of your job. Tell me about some of the problems you deal with on a daily basis, or what is the hardest part of this job for you? Because I know there's lots of parts that are hard.
Yeah, I would say the hardest part is every day you're filled with so much opportunity. And so what I mean by that is like that to a lot of people that wouldn't sound like a problem, but it actually is when you think about it, because you have to think about where you want to spend your time. And every day there's a new idea, there's a new goal, something that you need to chase, something that can help make the business more profitable or can help make the pickleball more relatable. And I think the hardest part is choosing which one of those things that you want to do and that you want to focus your time on. And at the same point, like you can't also not do things, because if you don't do it, someone else will. And so what I mean by that is like every day there's a new opportunity, something that you can chase, something that you can grow upon, and trying to figure out where you want to place your time. I think that's probably the hardest part of the business, because it's all important. Every single one of the things is important. And so that, I think, is what I struggle the most with, is like, what is the idea on the napkin that we're going to go focus today? And what can I get done today? What can I get done tomorrow? What's the goal in a week, in a month, in a year, in 5 years? Like, those are some of the things that we're starting to think about now as we're starting to get more sophisticated with how we're operating the business. And I think that probably is the hardest part of my job, is just trying to figure out what one of these things should we focus on today, and which one of these things is going to have to wait until tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if we don't do it, someone else will. So what's the priority? Absolutely. So what are you working on right now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the number one thing that we're trying to get done right now is this merger between the PPA Tour and Major League Pickleball, which I think is super important. I'd be lying if I said it wasn't bumpy. It's been super bumpy.
Sure.
And it's been a bumpy year. But there's been a lot. Yes. Really, this last year has been, no one would have ever thought, the ups and the downs and the twists and the turns. And really, I'm just super excited because it feels like we've got all the right people in the right spots right now. And trying to bring everything together and move forward together, I think, is the most important thing, not just for the business and sustainability, but also just for the sport in general, for fans, for players, for sponsors, for TV. We need to see all this come together. And, we're in a great position right now. I'm really looking forward to 2024. And I was looking forward to 2023 last year, but 2024, I think it's going to be the best year for pickleball. Like, you have something like Major League Pickleball, which is so awesome. Like, what a great idea. You've got teams and cities and fans, and, the tagline's perfect. There's nothing else like it. Like, the first time I saw MLP, I go, wow, like, that reminds me of my high school football, my high school basketball, my high school tennis. Like, what's more fun than being on a team? Like, it's the best. But on the same time, like, you also have the PPA Tour, which I think is so important. Like, you have individuals and who is the best player in the world, and seeing the best two teams play against each other. It's an opportunity for people to come in and be professional players and build their personal brand. And so I think having, one, the right people in the room, which I think we have now, and two, having both models and both platforms, I think pickleball, I think the sky's the limit. I think anyone that tells you they think they understand where pickleball is going to go, they don't know. Like, I think this thing has so much opportunity, and I'm just lucky to be along for the ride. And so that's where a lot of time's being spent right now. Tried to spend some time this holiday with the kiddos, right? So get out there sledding, out, spending time with friends and family. I'm here at my home office in Utah until the end of the year. So it's been really fun, just kind of being home and spending time with family and loved ones. And I think the other thing is just trying to get ready for 2024. It's going to be bigger and better than ever. Bigger venues, more participants, more amateurs, bigger sponsors, more pro players than ever before. So just trying to get ready for 2024, and we're going to kick it off with the Masters. And I think people are going to be in for one hell of a year.
Absolutely. And, people ask all the time, can MLP and PPA exist? And I say resoundingly yes. And that's one of the things about pickleball, how inclusive it is and how much, how different people play it. And I mean that in terms of rec versus competitive versus tournaments versus camps, which we just launched, the PPA camps coming next year at every one of our events, so that you can not only compete, but you can also learn. And team events versus individual competitions, at every skill level, at every age group, up until 90 years old. And that is one of the coolest things about pickleball, and a reason why I love that we've embraced everything that the pickleball world has thrown at us while building this, and why I'm so excited, or one of the many reasons why I'm so excited that PPA and MLP are working together for the future. I want to talk about the PPA generally. We have so many good, amazing people there, some who've been there since the very beginning. You said 150 employees, and all of them have put their whole hearts into making pickleball the best it possibly can be, and they work so very hard. I'd love for you to tell me a little bit about one or two people who really stand out as having given a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's super hard to narrow it down to just one or two people, because I think a lot of people have given up a lot of opportunity, and they put a lot of time into this, more than you would put into a normal 9-to-5 job.
Yep.
So it doesn't really do me justice to only talk about two, but I will pick two because that was the question. I think one person that just gets a lot done, that probably is underappreciated when it comes to the whole looking at the PPA Tour and isn't super front facing, would be someone like Parker Roberts.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was like our 6th hire, maybe. He was pretty new. I would still have him part of the original group. He wasn't like OG, but he's pretty OG still, right?
Yep.
Single OG, not double. But, we brought Parker in, and that guy, he is the first one in the office. He is the last one to leave. He's moved down to Dallas with no problems. He's figuring it out. He's leading, he leads all on-site revenue. So all tournament registrations, ticketing, even gambling, all that rolls up to him. And I think, very underappreciated. Somebody that goes the extra mile, is available whenever we need him. That's constantly stretching our goals and reassessing and making sure that we're always working towards the future. And I really love working with him because he's very different than me. He's a lot more calm, a lot more calculated. My personality, he's been really good to balance out. Like, I find myself in meetings all the time saying, Parker, what do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Mm-hmm. And the reason why is because his opinion is so much different than mine. And which is a good thing. Like, it's good to have people that look at things from different points of view. And usually we get to the same place, but we have a very different way of getting there. And, my personality is very, it's pretty aggressive, and I like to go get things done. And, I'm positive with it, but I just see so much opportunity, and I'd rather get in there and get dirty and do the best we can. And guess what? We're going to mess up along the way. We'll go back and fix it. But unless we get going, we'll never know what we don't know. And Parker on the other side he's very much, how do we look at our business now? How do we look at where it needs to go? What are some roadblocks that we'll have along the way? And I think he's very underappreciated when it comes to like workload and what he's done to be able to help grow the PPA Tour. So obviously that's one person. The other person I'd probably group them together is the operations team. That really has helped us. I mean, you think about where we were, Hannah, like you were hauling around C&D nets. You still do help us take down at events. That's one thing that's super important to me about the culture, is that we all do our part. Without tournaments, nobody has a job. So we have to have tournaments. We got to be able to run tournaments. We got to be able to do hard things. It's hard to hang a banner. It's hard to set up a net. It's hard to tape a court. No two people can tape a court faster than myself and Connor Ogden. I don't care who it is.
Yeah, it's true.
They cannot do it. But I think the whole ops team led by Jeff Dixon, those guys, I mean, it is a lot of hard work when you think about the logistics that go into running a PPA tournament now. We own all of our own equipment. So, they're moving 3 semi-trailers to and from events. They're painting tennis courts to pickleball and painting pickleball courts back to tennis. They're setting up LED boards. They're doing all of our sponsorship fulfillment. They're getting these venues, bringing in seating. Like, all that is coordinated and all that is work. And I know people think that they just show up and the venue looks like that, but trust me, it doesn't. Like, there is so much time and effort that goes on behind the scenes. And so, bringing Jeff on, he was the first dedicated person that we brought onto that role. Up to that point, it was just me, you, Bryce, Parker, Connor, and we would get to tournaments 3 or 4 days early. And I remember your brother coming and talking to me about, how we should be doing a draw. And I said, yeah, come talk to me why I tape lines. And this was only 18 months ago, right? I'm there taping lines. Ben's talking to me about how we should be doing seating moving forward, and that's when he was going to be able to come meet with me because I had to tape the courts because without those courts, we're not playing, right? And so having Jeff being able to really take that and really take it to a whole new level. I mean, these tournaments look totally different than they did 18 months ago when it comes to the look and the feel. And that's what it's so important to us as we talk about, getting ticket sales and we talk about growing sponsorship. Like, it's got to look the part. It's got to feel the part. And so having Jeff, I mean, that is just so much dang work. So super grateful for him.
Can't say enough good things about the ops team for sure. They are workhorses. They work crazy hours. And as somebody who now no longer has to set up or take down unless I feel, like inclined to, help and be part of the team, it's so nice. I'm so happy. And they're just such a blessing. You mentioned Ben coming out to talk to you about seeds while you were taping. And I'd like to ask about some of the input that the pros have had on which direction our tour goes. Because obviously we're a business, we're trying to make money and stay afloat and build this thing up. But how important has it been to take the input from the pros and really build this the way that they want to see it built? For example, Lucy was the one I think who suggested Masters being all whites and amplifying that somewhat, sort of like the way that tennis does at Wimbledon. And Ben, has done a lot of help or has given a lot of help around like seeds and draws and progression draws and so on. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've said it from the very beginning, like we can't do this without the professional players. We want to be a players tour where players feel like they have input and it's something that they're enjoying and that they have fun doing. And if they don't like it, like I don't want them to do it. Like I want them to find something that they like and something that they enjoy. And so there's no way we could have gotten the PPA Tour to where it is today without the group of original PPA players that we had from the starting and even the ones that come on now. Like I was talking to James and Anna about the progression draw and some things that they liked the other day. And so I think the pros are just as responsible, or if they probably are more important to why the sport has gotten to where it is today. Like this isn't a one-way street. You can't do one without the other. Like the players need the tour and the tour needs the players. And so, with that, there's been a lot that we've learned along the way. Like, Colin and Deckel having, professional tennis backgrounds, somebody like Matt Wright, who definitely has his head, on his shoulders. Lucy Kovalova, Tyler Loom, like the list could go on of people that have had input on the PPA Tour and that have helped get it to where it is today. And, some of those players, they used to help set up the tournaments and take them down too. So, they've had a huge say in what the tour looks like and what it's going to look like. Like their opinions and their input, all that stuff matters a ton. And, sometimes it's hard to be everything to everybody. So, I'm sure there's things that all sorts of people see, whether it be a staff member, a fan, or a player, that they wish something was done differently or a different way. And, we're always open for suggestions and trying to understand of how we can do things better. But yeah, I mean, the pro players are huge, a huge part of why we're here, and they're a huge part of where we're going.
Absolutely. And things have gotten much more, organized and structured these days. But in the beginning, the pros would just walk up to us and say, hey, you should do it like this. Hey, I don't like this. They'd walk right up to you. Connor, we got to talk, And
they still do, by the way. They still do.
And yes. I don't know how much longer it's going to be like that, but they still
hopefully
do.
Forever. Yeah.
I like that relationship. Like that does not
Yeah.
happen in the NBA or, any other pro sports league. But I like that we have that. I like that we're approachable. I like that we listen, and you can't please everyone, but you can try, and while keeping in with your own vision. And we have worked side by side with these players for years now. And I have so many good memories too of them, of dinners and of on-site, shenanigans and champagne toasts after wins. And, I think you guys played trampoline dodgeball in Rockwall during that monsoon that came through. You and a bunch of the pros got in there, and you ended up, one of you broke the trampoline, I think, in this court bouncy house. It wasn't you.
It was not me.
I don't remember who it was, but so many good memories with them. Do you have any favorite moments with the pros over the years?
I think you were there. We invited the pro players to come down to our house in San Clemente.
Oh, yeah.
And we had a fun dinner. That night was really fun, just getting everybody together. When we also got together with Vince and the Vulcan people at that house in Atlanta. That was a really fun night. No one could beat me in cornhole. Still undefeated. Ask Ben about it. Pretty good. Pretty dang good at that game. I think all the memories, they're all so important. They're dear to my heart. And something that I'm forever grateful for. It's a unique thing where, there's friendships and business and, I would like to think that a lot of us are friends, outside of all of this. And so the relationships are something that are super important to me. The relationships with staff, the relationships with players. I think that's one of the reasons why we're here and we've been able to grow so much in such a short amount of time.
Absolutely. Well, 2024 coming up much quicker than I had anticipated, but it's right around the corner now. What are you hoping that 2024 brings?
Yeah, I think unity is one of the big things. Obviously, we can do a lot more together. So I think I think this is going to be a big year of unification and clarity of, how pro pickleball is going to look moving forward. I think one thing that's super important is, sure, there's been a lot of chaos in the pro game, but it hasn't been because of, things being bad. It's been because there's so much opportunity and everybody trying to grab that opportunity. And so I think 2024, we should be looking for unity. We should be looking for clarity. And, my big thing, I don't know if there's going to be a big aha moment. Like, I actually don't think there's been a big aha moment for me at all these past 5 years. It's just really putting your head down and getting a little bit bigger and a little bit better each and every day, each and every event. And we're just going to look to continue to grow. And I think the progression format is something that people should be looking forward to for next year, where instead of playing your entire event out one day, it's going to give us a lot of opportunity when it comes to ticket sales and telling stories and marketing. And when Tyler Loong's playing against Tyson, we're going to be able to highlight, all the craziness that's happened in the past. And we're going to be able to show why the match matters. And so I'm really excited for that. We're doing that for our Grand Slam events and also our 6 cups. So 10 events next year, we'll have the progression format, which I think is huge. I think that's going to be a big game changer for the sport of pickleball. Loved the way nationals went this year. So I think that's a big thing to look forward to when looking at something that's different. And I think just overall visibility to the sport, getting more people involved, more unified broadcast partners. Fox really stepped up this year, along with ESPN. So just seeing things a little bit clearer instead of jumping every which way, on a Sunday, which we're still going to do sometimes, by the way, because for us, it's more is more. We're going to do the best we can to get pickleball in as many places as possible. And I'm sure one day we'll have that one big TV deal where everything becomes easier for the consumer. But, that's really what I'm looking forward to next year, is just each tournament getting a little better. Like, you look back to where we were with the Masters last year, and oh my gosh, like, there has been so much progression. It is so much better than it was even just 12 months ago. And I thought we were pretty good 12 months ago. I'm like, wow, we're in a great spot, but geez, we're in a lot better spot now.
Oh, absolutely. I think of the PPA and its growth and the growth of pickleball overall kind of like growing up, you know? We're like this
Yeah.
small child learning to walk, and then we learn how to run, and you know, we make mistakes along the way. You stay out too late, you know, your parents get mad at you. But it's not, you know, always, it can be messy, but it's beautiful. And as long as you have the right people in the right places, like you mentioned, and I think our team is absolutely phenomenal. I couldn't ask for nicer people to be working with. And that's the reason I've stayed in this job for as long as I have, because I truly enjoy what I do every day on a, you know, minute by minute basis. And the people that I'm surrounded with, I feel good. I feel like there are good people who care. And that's what matters to me, because I've worked in jobs where that's not the case. So just love what we're doing, and loved talking to you today about the PPA, about you, and about where we're going with all of this. So thanks for coming on, Connor.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And obviously super grateful for you. So thanks for everything you do for us.
Welcome.